Welcome to Hearts and Stripes, your one-stop shop for all things military marriage. I hope our discussions and interviews equip you with the tools to start or grow a beautiful marriage as we address the benefits and challenges of marriage. I believe life's most precious moments are worth celebrating, so I'll help you design your marriage blueprint in alignment with your core values. Thank you for joining us, and remember to rate, subscribe, and review. Let's do this. Hello, and welcome to Hearts and Stripes podcast. This is your host, Bree Carroll, here with another Heart to Heart. Listen, I have missed you guys. We started off with taking a little bit of a spring break, and I think it extended a little further than what we'd originally imagined, but it's okay. We're going to talk about it right here on this episode, and I am just excited to be back here on this platform where we are all about strengthening military marriages. And you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, I got my Mil Marriage Strong t-shirt on today to reinforce that message. So let's dive right in. So here at Hearts and Stripes podcast, behind the scenes, we've had a lot of changes. And actually, I don't think they're bad changes. I think they were changes that I was a little afraid to step into as this platform has begun to really grow and pick up some momentum. And I just wanted to share it here, as I love that you get to come on this journey with me with the podcast, with recommending different guests to be on the podcast. And it means a lot that I can be transparent and open about our spring break and about what's next for Hearts and Stripes podcast. So for those who may have followed me, we put up a survey because a lot of you know, as the host here at Hearts and Stripes, I actually am also the owner of B Carroll Events. I love designing experiences, and that is what I'm passionate about. And growing that side of the business has been a great opportunity for me in this season. So as I evaluated a lot of the different things that we had going on behind the scenes, we looked at Hearts and Stripes and really wanted to ensure that we were serving you, all of our service couples out there, extremely well. So we were looking at ways, how can we improve that? We thought about maybe pausing the podcast altogether so that we could really get a stellar lineup, and also maybe pause to hear from you and hear what topics of discussion that you would really want to hear right here on Hearts and Stripes. And then we also talked about would I start another podcast and a lot of other things. But here's the reality. Let's look backwards so that we can get some direction forward, right? So Hearts and Stripes podcast, the reason why this podcast even exists in the first place was out of my frustration of seeing so many of my family members, other service couples who walked alongside us in this armed forces, decided to separate or divorce for various reasons. And in that time of that span of a year, it was about 6 different couples that my husband and I had to face terms of, like, they're separating. Like, what is going on? What are the signs that we need to look out for? How can we support them? How can we help them? And I became very frustrated in the lack of maybe not so much the lack of resources, but the gap between the resources and the individual. Because when you are at a point of crisis, you don't want to go looking all over the place to find support for your relationship. We know our chaplains are there and we love them so much. Thank you. If you are a chaplain or a chaplain spouse who's maybe listening, thank you for all that you do. We also know that everyone is not necessarily going to reach out to their chaplains when they're in a time of need for whatever that reason may be. A lot of times they may be looking for off installation resources as well. And that was something that I offered up to a lot of the couples that we tried to walk through as they opted to separate. So this podcast really came out of a place of really wanting to meet the need and really fill that gap and bridge that gap where we saw a disconnect And I was hoping, and if you listen to the intro, you hear Hearts and Stripes podcast is the one-stop shop for all things military marriage. We have real talk on this platform, and I want to continue to do that. But that part about one-stop shop is something that we had a very unique opportunity that came as I received the recognition of being the 2020-2021 Armed Forces Insurance Air Force Spouse of the Year. As many of you know, I utilized that platform to really expand the mission and vision that started right here at Hearts and Stripes podcast, and I advocated to strengthen military marriages, right? Out of that came the holiday Military Marriage Day, which is celebrated annually on August the 14th. And we're so excited about this. And I'll tell you more about that in just a second. But with expansion of a holiday, I was like, you know what? If we're going to dream big, let's just dream big, because I know even a podcast isn't a resource that maybe everyone will tap into. Well, that is where I got this crazy idea of building out the Military Marriage Day website to also be that one-stop shop, to have a place where all things marriage and military marriage can reside, resources, books, clinician contacts, all of those things where you could go and find support for your relationship. Now, this is no small undertaking, right? It started as this podcast and it's bloomed and grown into something so much bigger. And I'm excited about that. But guys, if I can be real, it really takes a lot of effort behind the scenes to build it out in the way that you deserve for it to be. So what we have decided here at Hearts and Stripes podcast, so that we could focus on the amazing efforts going into Military Marriage Day and also the resource hub, which is on militarymarriageday.com, we would make the Hearts and Stripes podcast seasonal. So behind the scenes, that is the decision that we are moving forward with right now, so that you can continue to come right here and chat with us, hear from our amazing guests, and really continue to thrive in your relationship, not just being reactive, but proactive, right, to the things that may come up in your marriage. So this is what this will look like. We are going to continue what I like to call this spring break into somewhat of a summer break, and we will be back in July gearing up for Military Marriage Day. Now, let me share a little bit of what is to come for that. This year will be the very first year that we will actually be live for Military Marriage Day. You see the magnitude of what's happening around here. We will be live right here in Shreveport, Bossier, Louisiana, which will be the first location that we host Military Marriage Day live, but not the only. We will also have satellite locations and celebrations all across the country. I mean, let's be clear. Last year for Military Marriage Day, we got 17 proclamations from different states, and our goal is to get all 50 states. That's what we're running towards, and that is only possible because of our phenomenal Military Marriage Day ambassadors. That's right, we have volunteers just like you all across the country and even internationally who are helping us spread the mission and vision of staying Mil Marriage strong. So with that is where our efforts are going to be focused on supporting our ambassadors so that we can reach our goal for our 50 state proclamations. But I always like to say 51 because the ultimate goal is to get a presidential proclamation for Military Marriage Day. And Hearts and Stripes podcast actually will start to look a lot different as it is the official podcast for Military Marriage Day. So you'll see we're getting a facelift over here. No, just the cover art will change. You'll start seeing a direct tie into a lot of the things that we have going on as the platform really grows. And I'm grateful, so grateful for the opportunity and the growth that has come and started right here at Hearts and Stripes podcast. you'll see we'll have some special guests on here that maybe are speakers for Military Marriage Day. We'll have some of our Military Marriage Day ambassadors sharing their experiences here. We'll talk more about what is in the Resource Hub and give you a behind the scenes tour of that as that is stood up, and really go a lot deeper into our military marriage survey that we do annually. We put out an annual report, and I am really excited about the findings, not just the data, even though, you know, I am a push your glasses up nerd, but not just the data itself, but how the data can be utilized to better improve the resources that are existing, make you aware that you are maybe not alone in your military marriage experience, and also to help champion some new ways that we can support our service couples. So that is what's going on behind the scenes at Hearts and Stripes podcast. I did not want to leave you guys hanging because I know we have some amazing listeners out there. Thank you so much for all of your support. You know, we have celebrated an anniversary already for Hearts and Stripes podcast, and it's not going anywhere. It may just look a little different as we roll out in a seasonal style, as opposed to you hearing us consistently week after week. But don't worry, this break and this change to seasonal only means that we are going to have the best and brightest, those who can be a guide, those who can be transparent and give you the real about military marriages, coming on here to share so that we can learn and grow together. I hope that sounds great for you. Please stay connected with us. Be sure to follow Military Marriage Day on Instagram and Facebook. That is where you will start seeing all of the updates that are coming for Military Marriage Day and for Hearts and Stripes podcast. Also, you can be sure to follow me at B Carol Events. That is the official social media area to play for all things B Carol Events and the productions that we do, with, of course, Military Marriage Day being our flagship event that we are so grateful to be able to put on for all of you out there. Okay, now before you go, you know we cannot let you leave without doing our favorite segment here at Hearts and Stripes podcast, and that is sharing our heart track. Our heart tracks are all on Spotify. You can check out the full playlist at Spotify, and you can find this song under Heart Tracks 3. That's Heart Tracks 3 on Spotify. So for this short announcement episode, we are gonna wrap things off with Taylor Swift, Lover. And I love that song for this particular episode because I love how she talks about wanting to be with this person forever and ever and ever, and also shares that this is their place, so they make the rules. And us changing things up here on this podcast, I had to be reminded that it is my podcast. I make the rules. Really, we make the rules, guys. It's a joint effort, which is why I always love getting insight and feedback for you. But it's okay to not be afraid to take the next step in your relationship, take the next step in the progression of the podcast. And sometimes it looks a little differently than how you maybe started. So shout out to Taylor Swift, Lover. That is our heart track for this episode. More to come from Hearts and Stripes podcast. But as always, thank you. Thank you for being on this journey with us. And thank you for continuing to support and listen. If you are checking us out on YouTube, or if you're not, head over to YouTube so you can see the live shows when we're having these conversations, so that you can check out the cute swag that we have going on and all of the fun things that is to come when we open up and roll out this new season of Hearts and Stripes podcast. Remember to follow us, subscribe, and like. We love to see your comments. We love to hype you up in the comments. And if you have any questions regarding Hearts and Stripes podcast or Military Marriage Day, that is how you get a hold of us. Contact us, hit us up on the website. We would love to stay connected with you as we cheer you on throughout your mil marriage journey. So everybody out there, thank you again. And remember to stay mil marriage strong.
Thank you for tuning in. Remember to rate, subscribe, and review. This is Hearts and Stripes. We are the few, the proud, that aim high and are forged by love. Always ready, always there. We are Mill Marriage Strong.